Hey guys, it's Dr. J here in the house. Happy Friday. Just put my son down for bed. I want to jump on a live call. I was going to do one this morning, but I had some construction going on in my office that took a little bit too much time to make happen. But I'm on here now and I'm excited to dig in and see what you all want to chat about. Maybe a little bit out of the routine. Normally I'm going live in the morning on Fridays and not at the end of the day, but anyone that's on here, they got lucky enough to hang on in there. I look forward to chatting. Dennis wrote in, he wrote, Dr. J, would you consider interviewing Dr. Jack Cruz again? Dr. Jack's an interesting guy. I would definitely interview him again. He definitely talks a lot, and it's hard to pull out those action-oriented, steps from him, but he's definitely a character for sure. So I would definitely put him on my list to chat with again for sure. Good to see you guys. Hope all is well. Any questions, feel free and chime in. I know it's a little bit late here. I'm going to go end my week with a nice ginger kombucha. Excited about that, and have some nice kale chips as well. It's my nice little dessert. All right, what's going on, y'all? So a couple things here on my mind. Let me see here. What do I want to chat about today? What's new in functional medicine here? Off the bat, I would say that I'm seeing lots of people come back on some of the stool tests with gluten sensitivity. So I'm seeing the frequency of gluten sensitivity definitely go up for sure. And I'm noticing a lot of people, even if they don't seem to be gluten sensitive, they still tend to get better cutting gluten out of their diet. Now, why that may be, it could be because of Roundup, glyphosate. It could be because of lectins or anti-nutrients. It could even be because of the fermentable carbohydrates in the grains. They're kind of driving bacterial overgrowth, or they're feeding the bacteria that's already there. So I'm seeing lots of people with gluten sensitivity coming back with, IgA antibodies, or I'm seeing people that aren't, but they're still benefiting from cutting those kind of foods out of their diets. Robert writes in, what are some typical symptoms of H. pylori? So typically, Robert, great question. You have the conventional ones, which are going to be bloating. You have acid reflux, heartburn, ulcerations, right? Those are going to be the big ones. Then you may have less typical constipation, diarrhea. And then you may have even the less typical ones, which are going to be mood, depression, anxiety, and fatigue. And there's actually published peer-reviewed articles talking about H. pylori and mood issues and depression, partly because of the fact that you have lack of optimal digestion, right? Because you need hydrochloric acid to break down your proteins. All those proteins are amino acids that become a lot of the precursors to your brain chemicals. And then a lot of those minerals are helpful, like magnesium and zinc are really important for hormones and relaxation. And all those cholesterol become the building blocks of a lot of our hormones. So really, really important. Hope that helps. Susan writes in, did you know anything about the HAE or the CVID? My brother has IVIG 2 times a week. Too many acronyms, Susan. If you can help spell those out for me, that'd be super helpful. I'm not sure what those acronyms mean. How do I deal with the norovirus? So if we see a norovirus on a stool test, a lot of times we'll just kind of treat whatever else is there and see what happens. A lot of times it just clears. If it doesn't clear, we can use something like monolaurin or GI Clear 3 or silver. So we'll typically do the silver, the monolaurin synergy, and the GI Clear 3, and that tends to have some really great antiviral effects to break it down. Riley writes in, Dr. J, what's your opinion on corticosteroids for irritable bowel disease? Again, it's a Band-Aid. If you're in a flare, it might get you out of it. But the question is, why are you in the flare? Is there a food issue? Is there a food processing issue? Maybe you have irritable bowel disease and it's so flared up, right? Irritable bowel disease is typically going to be either Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, just to keep it simple. These are autoimmune conditions that affect your gut. And typically the inflammation is so high, you may have all kinds of symptoms from diarrhea, just the overall intestinal pain and inflammation. I've seen many patients with ulcerative colitis and Crohn's go into remission, and I've seen some even flare up. I had one flare up this week, combination of just being too lax on their diet for too long, and just the inflammation and the calprotectin, which is a marker of inflammation, going through the roof. So if it's topical Band-Aid, could be helpful. Corticosteroids are incredibly catabolic. They break down tissue. So we much rather do healing, soothing, anti-inflammatory nutrients, curcumin, L-glutamine, aloe, DGL, slippery elm, boswellia, healing, soothing things to help calm things down than those. But if we have to, it's a Band-Aid. If it's short-term, it's not a big deal. Irma writes, and any good strategies for rebuilding myelin? So myelin's the outer coating on your nerves. So the first thing is don't destroy it. So typically the autoimmune condition, multiple sclerosis, is an autoimmune condition where the myelin's being destroyed. So autoimmune diet's a great first step to calm down the immune system. The next step would be looking at gut permeability, seeing if there's a leaky gut, poor digestion, food allergens, gut infections, bacteria. H. pylori is commonly associated with MS. So looking at all the things that may drive it. And then Susan writes in, yeah, Susan, I'm not sure about those acronyms. Human angioedema and a variable immune disease. Not sure about those acronyms. I'm sorry. Let me go back here and talk to Mike. Man, the questions are rolling in here, guys. Where do you think neurotoxins are stored in the body and a good way to detox? Well, a lot of toxins typically are going to be stored in the fat. That's part of the reason why a lot of people feel crappy when they start becoming fat burners, partly because they're keto adapting, and the other part because they're liberating a lot of toxins. That's number one. So the fat's a big one. And I would say using good sulfur amino acids, using binders, activated charcoal, sweating either from exercise or sauna therapy, infrared sauna will be super helpful. Hey, Sherry, how you're doing? Your cycle started 3 weeks again. Could this be hormonal or still stress related? Anything I could take herbally to postpone it longer? So great question, Sherry. So stress can definitely do it because stress will take your progesterone and it will pull it downstream to cortisol. So it's possible, Sherry, your cycle could be just from the stress that's going on. So first thing I would do is you can either do the feminescent cycling, the maca, and or combine that with some chase tree. I use a product called Female Tonic. So those two are great just as an herbal support to help with the HPAG axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, gonadal axis. And then we can always do a little bit of a cyclical augmentation protocol with progesterone. Just do a small amount of 50 milligrams of progesterone a day in divided doses, typically morning and night. On days 15 to 27 of your cycle, just to kind of carve out that luteal phase. That's what I recommend. Sherry, hope you're doing well. Amy writes in, my skin's getting really bumpy and pores are really growing. I take a multivitamin, Restore, fish oil, collagen. Could it be related to connective tissue disorder? Thank you. I would just want to say, make sure your gut's doing well, Amy. Make sure you're digesting food. Make sure there's not any infections, making sure you're breaking down everything. How are your bowel movements looking? Are you having regular PMs? Are your stools sinking like they should? Are they floating? Are you seeing undigested particulate in there? So I want to look at the food stuff first. Hope that helps. Let's see here. Why is my fiber supplement expensive? Oh, my fiber products pretty much just has all the organic plant vegetables in it. A lot of fiber products are more cheaper because it's just psyllium husk. And if it's not organic, you get a lot of pesticide residue. So my product has carrot, it has apple pectin, it has citrus pectin, it has inulin, it has 2 other fibers, it has prune. So it's got a couple of plant-based fibers, about 6 or 7 of them, and they're all organic. So that's probably the difference there. Noreen writes in, the GI map showed Klebsiella, Prevotella, Pseudomonas crypto, and low lactobacillus and low IgA. What herbs are good for these? So typically if I see bacterial overgrowth things, I will do either GI Clear 1 or GI Clear 6. With crypto, I use a specific product that's that I don't carry. It's called AP Mag, and that works great. And we'll typically do the GI Clear 4 along with that. We may cycle in a couple other things. It just depends on what's going on. Hope that helps. Christina writes in, Dr. J, some doctors say it's dangerous to treat parasites with herbs because they can make them more angry and cause them to migrate to other organs from the guts. What do you think about that? Well, here's the deal. I don't really ever go after parasites right away. So a lot of doctors, I think, get in trouble because they come up, they see a parasite, and they just go wham, and they're going to knock it out. And by the way, I've seen patients get far more sick and have die-off with people going after them with antibiotics. Again, some are really virulent, maybe Entamoeba histolytica or a certain type of worm. There's some worms that go to the brain that you really got to be careful with, right? But in general, we work on the diet, we work on the lifestyle, we work on sleep, we work on hydration, we work on adrenal support, hormone support, gut health, digestive support, and then we come in there and knock the gut out. And that makes a huge difference because that gives us the ability to regulate and decrease inflammation a ton. And that's part of the reason why we do so well with killing things. And again, if we have a die-off reaction, we can taper up. We can use ginger tea to help with the biofilms. and we can go low and go slow and work it out. We don't have to have a whole bunch of die off. Michelle writes in, fish oil help rebuild my myelin. The fish oil is good. Again, but just so you know, myelin's going to be more saturated fat, right? So fish oil is polyunsaturated. It's not a saturated fat. So, I mean, good, healthy grass-fed meats, coconut oil, good, healthy animal products. These will all be helpful. But, of course, fish oil, it's a polyunsaturated. That's going to line your cell membranes, and it's going to be highly anti-inflammatory. So that's, I think, really good, too. Daniel writes in, what do you recommend from your line, gut repair, probiotics, enzymes? So it depends. I mean, my gut repair product is GI Restore. A lot of people have similar ones. It's got a combination of L-glutamine and healing anti-inflammatory herbs to kind of get the gut inflammation down. Probiotics, I have a couple different types. I like Megaspore as a spore-based type. People that have a lot of SIBO or bacterial overgrowth or a lot of D-lactate or get very sensitive to probiotics will use the Megaspore. Or I'll do a combination of my Saccharomyces boulardii, Sacroflora, or Probioflora. I'm reformulating Probioflora to put a couple other strains in it and to make it a little more potent, so that will come out soon. And then enzymes, I typically do a bunch of plant-based enzymes that are carb, fat, and protein-based, proteolytic, amylytic, and lipolytic. Riley writes in, what could be the reason for blue fingernails when cold? Typically lack of oxygen. So, I mean, it could just be people that have Raynaud's condition or Raynaud's phenomenon. They get the vasospasms. That has a strong thyroid autoimmune connection. So that can sometimes spasm and then you start seeing the blue nails, but typically circulation issues and sometimes Raynaud's or autoimmune or thyroid. Awesome. Danielle writes in, are you following your Candida protocol? How much silver should I take daily? So for Candida, I would typically do 1 to 2 tablespoons, and then you can do that 3 times a day, and that works great. I typically would never just do Candida. I would never just do the GI Clear 5 or the silver for Candida. I'd always add in some oil of oregano along with that too. Are saunas from the gym beneficial, or do you like infrared for detox? Again, just sweating will be helpful, but in general, infrared sauna, far infrared, will help pull out the toxins and penetrate a little bit deeper. Again, I didn't have a conversation, but Evan Brand had a conversation with Dr. William Shaw, who runs Great Plain Labs. He said one of the best things you can do to get toxins out of your body is just sweat. Again, if infrared, though, will have a little bit more penetration, though. Do you think there is any harm of taking MSM long-term or forever? I mean, MSM is methyl sulfonylmethane. It's a sulfur derivative. I think it's fine. It's great for joints, great for neurotransmitters. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, you're going to eat a lot of good sulfur-rich food in vegetables, in your cruciferous or in your healthy meats or good quality whey protein. Initially, I began taking it for a knee injury, but continue using it for hair, skin, and nails and anti-inflammatory benefits. I think it's great. That's good. KS writes in, I took maca root because of the benefits, but it made my thyroid feel funny, so I stopped. Do you know why? What does that mean? So when you say thyroid funny, do you mean hair loss? Do you mean you felt a little bit cold? Do you mean you felt a little bit tired, or you got anxious or jittery? A little bit of that would help me answer your question better. Here y'all. Do you ever take Adrenal Boost on stressful days? Heck yeah. Just took it a few minutes ago. I did that typically on stressful days. I'll do it 2 to 3 times a day. I mean, the boost is just get some glandular tissue. Remember, people in tribes for long periods of time utilize organ meats for huge support, right? So I like the glandular tissue in it. And I think B vitamins are great for stressful days. And then, of course, I like adaptogens to help just kind of calm things down and help with the HPA axis. Dr. J, I'm an athlete training with weights. I'm mostly on a paleo diet. What's your opinion on Ezekiel bread as a form of carbs around training? When I was doing lots of lifting and I was thinking I was being gluten-free, I was eating a whole bunch of Ezekiel bread and was still having lots of breakouts and rosacea. And I cut Ezekiel bread out and I did so much better. So if there is gluten sensitivity, there is still gluten in Ezekiel bread, even though it's sprouted and raised on high, so to speak, and blessed by every monk, right? But it's not going to be the best if there's a gluten sensitivity. So look at, if you want some extra starch in your diet, look at the Siete brand. They have some really good cassava or yuca type of products that may replace that starch for you. Genesis writes in, what is the proper paleo functional medicine bio-friendly way for women to deal with bleeding periods? So there's a couple options. Number one, is your bleeding excessive? So typically 7 days total at the max. Most are 4 to 5, less than 4 tampons per day on heavy days, no more than 3 to 4 on average should be great. We don't want you to go anemic. And if you're bleeding too much, it typically means estrogen dominance. So we got to get the estrogen dominance fixed. Now with options, there's organic types of tampons that aren't bleached and don't have a whole bunch of chemicals in it. Those are good options. There's the Diva Cup that's out there as well. That's a good option. And then some women, if they don't have a bunch of flow, they can deal with it with pads. And again, you know, being a guy, I don't have myself experience, but I see thousands of patients and I ask lots of questions and I figure out what works. Most women, if they can get away with it, pads or a Diva Cup, and then just general tampons, and get your estrogen dominance under control if there is any excess bleeding. Okay, cool. Do you take Preg and DHEA drops on stressful days? I do. I have some right in the corner of my desk, and I will pull them out every now and then if I need. I try to rely on adaptogens and vitamins and nutrients instead, though. CBD is the way to go. I'm doing 1,000 times better. That's great. I think CBD has some great benefits. Just make sure it's really good quality, as there's been some words going around on the internet that a lot of them have some solvents in there that could have some harsh chemicals. Glad you like the Siete chips, Amy. That's good. Robert writes in, an hour and a half after eating my center, my abdomen between the ribs gets really bloated and it's only relieved by burping a lot. What could that be? Well, as long as there's not a food allergen issue, right? I would make sure that, I think you may have had H. pylori in the past, so make sure H. pylori is gone, Robert, and make sure you're getting enough stomach acid or enzymes. Really simple. If HCl and enzymes go up and you feel better, then you know exactly what the solution is. KS right in, it made my thyroid feel sore after taking it. Well, I'd pull it out, try it again, see if it's something that comes up, or maybe it could be a hallucination. So I always just say, pull it out. Does it happen again? If it's a repetitive thing, then we'll pull it out. There could be some type of reaction that you're having with the herb, and I would try something else for your hormones. I would try maybe Chase Tree or some other kind of herbal product. Genesis writes in, what's your ancestral perspective on needing to stay hydrated all day, every day? Where's our key diversion of water when we're out hunting away from water for long periods of time? I mean, that's a great question. It's a really good question. I mean, I think if you read Dr. Batman Gillige's book, Your Body's Many Cries for Water, he talks about half your body weight in ounces. Now, when you look at ancestral times, totally different too, right? Number one, what was the stress? Like once they killed an animal and they had like a tent or something over their head, that was their stress. There wasn't like all of this paying the mortgage, paying the bills. I mean, kids were like, you know, once they were past 1 or 2, were an asset because they could hunt with you and they could help out wherever you were living, gathering or foraging, right? So life's totally different, but I think having enough water just to make your urine at least a slight yellow color, I think is a good way to go. Half your body weight in ounces could be a really good way to go. If you read Dr. Batman Gillige's book, he really talks about so many health conditions that he saw clinically as a medical doctor improve just with adequate hydration. So I think it's always something to look at and address first and see what improves. But regarding that, I mean, I'm not sure. If you're out hunting or doing things, maybe there's ponds or water that they had access to. So it's really hard to say. But also their water wasn't as clean either. So they had a lot of parasites. Hey, Spivey, hope you're doing well. Lou writes in, you want your health? Get off fluoride water, GMO, vaccines, and medications, and no GMO tampons or pads. I think that's good feedback. Riley writes in, what's the difference between a food sensitivity versus a reaction versus an autoimmune disease? It's a great question, Riley. So food sensitivity is typically going to be an immune reaction outside of like your typical anaphylactic or IgE type of response. So you have IgA or IgG, which are like more delayed mediated responses. You have IgE, which is more of an eosinophilic anaphylactic response, right? You get hives, right? Your throat closes up because you eat peanuts. And of course, prolonged inflammation and prolonged stress in the gut that opens up the gut lining, that can easily start the process of an autoimmune condition. What's his name there? Gastroenterologist out of Harvard. It'll come to me in a second. Not Aristo Vajdani, but Italian guy. Ah, come on. It'll come to me. But gastroenterology guy out of Harvard, he was at University of Maryland before. He basically has written papers that you need leaky gut as that primary mechanism to kind of initiate an autoimmune condition. Okay. Hope that helps. Kitty writes in low ferritin but high iron. What would it mean? Hard to say. If it's low ferritin, is it also low iron saturation? Is it also high UIBC or TIBC? That matters too. Sometimes iron can go a little bit high because of inflammation as well, even though you may have low iron. So if you're based on your name, Kitty, imagine you're a female. So if you're menstruating a lot and maybe you're not getting enough red meat and you feel tired, there could be low iron going on there. So I would look at those other numbers I mentioned. K Gupta writes in, are trace mineral drops helpful? Just eating Himalayan salt enough? I think it can be helpful. I think it can totally be helpful. I mean, there's one product I use called Endura that's great. I'll also pinch some real salt after my chat here with y'all. I'm going to go grab some filtered water and add some real salt to it and get some good minerals. I think that's great. No problem with that. Writes in, following taking a pituitary glandular for a couple months, my period suddenly ceased and hot flashes ensued. What now? Hard to say. I don't know how old you are. I don't know anything about you, so hard to say there. If you're right on the cusp of being perimenopausal, 48 to 50-ish, then that may make sense, but I need to know more about you. Genesis writes in, what are your thoughts about liposomal vitamin C compared to non-liposomal vitamin C? I mean, I think liposomal vitamin C is good, but I don't have a problem with non-liposomal vitamin C. I mean, it gets absorbed. It's just if you do too much of it, you will get loose stools. So that's something that happens. CC writes in, Justin, can colostrum cure my leaky gut or do I need a full protocol? Definitely cannot cure it. I mean, is it a superfood? Is it really helpful at reducing inflammation and sealing up the gut lining? Yes. But if I'm walking through a thorn bush and I keep on spraying Neosporin on all the thorns that are being pricked into my body, does that fix the root cause? No, it does not. So you got to fix the underlying root cause, which could be food, digestion, stress, sleep, and infection based. Amy writes in, low testosterone in women, how can I raise it? I work out, do mostly weights and walking. Well, that's good. Maybe I would look at doing getting your adrenals looked at. I mean, there could be some low adrenal stuff, some low DHEA. I put you on an adrenal program, and I'd use some herbs as well, and just make sure the low-hanging fruit, like your digestion's working. All those hormones are made from proteins and fats, so make sure the low-hanging fruit is dialed in. Riley, the ProBioFlora formula will be coming out in the next few weeks. It'll be a 60 cap formulation. The difference is the dosage will be 2.5 times higher, meaning there's 2.5 times probiotic per capsule. So it'll be a better deal as well. Amy writes in, I'm 37. I have normal cycles, tend to be on the light side about 3 to 4 days. So, I mean, there's other things going on. There could be adrenal issues that are going on. There could be gut issues going on. I think it blows a lot of women's minds that their hormonal issues could be connected to a gut issue. It blew my mind when I had fatigue that was caused by poor digestion. So all the nutrients to run your mitochondria, to run your hormones, to run your adrenals, you have to absorb them, right? You have to assimilate them. So we have to make sure you're not eating inflammatory foods, and we have to make sure the healthy, anti-inflammatory, nutrient-dense, and low-toxin foods are actually being absorbed, right? writes in, I'm 47. The timing is just odd. Yeah. What was your question, Yeah. So there could be some other stuff going on. There could be a little bit of hormone going in there that's flaring your pituitary. So that could easily be part of it. I would discontinue it and potentially add it back in at a much lower and slower dose. If you were at 4, I would come in at just 1 and just taper it up every few days. Okay. Where was I at here? What is partially empty sella? So you have the sella turcica, which is like the bone right behind here, the sphenoid. It looks like a horse's saddle, and the pituitary sits in it. And like literally, there's a condition where it's empty. There's literally no pituitary. I got a CAT scan one day, and the doctor told me it was partially empty. Okay, it could be a birth defect. That's really odd. Are you on hormones at all for that? Josh writes in, what's your take on Morley Robbins' take on mineral, copper versus iron? I'm not sure his shtick. I know Morley's the magnesium man. Seems like a nice guy when I hear him talk, but I'm not sure about that copper versus iron thing. If you want to let me know in the message, I'll answer it below. Why can I eat many tablespoons of grass-fed butter and coconut oil with nearly every meal perfectly, but when I have 1 teaspoon of almond butter, even with other fats, I get gallbladder pain? Food allergen. Nuts can be a common one with gallbladder issues. Dr. Jonathan Wright has a famous article that I've used for over 10 years in practice on gallbladder issues. I have it in my members area. If you Google Dr. Jonathan Wright gallbladder, you'll find it, but it's probably a food allergen. Lunsford writes in, my gut got better after I stopped GMO food. Totally. GMO Roundup is known to rip up those tight junctions, unzip them, just like that. Kitty writes in, how you feeling, Dr. J? What did your latest GI map show? I have not done it yet. I'm in the middle of a move right now, so I have not done it, but I will do it soon. I'm actually finishing my GI Clear 6 right now, so I'm going to go do 3 more right now. Because once this is done, I'm going to give it a few more weeks on the probiotics, and then I'm going to get tested. Noreen writes in, on your website, what time zone are your appointments in? Well, it should, on Full Slate, when you click, it should allow you to put your time zone in. It should detect it based on your IP address, so you should convert it to your time zone. Hope that helps. Josh writes in, how does sleep affect the function of the lower esophageal sphincter, vagus nerve? Well, I mean, if the lower esophageal sphincter is not, tight, if it's patent and open, obviously the food will come back up to your throat. So it could create some reflux issues. And if we don't have adequate hydrochloric acid, the vagus nerve is really important for digestive secretion. So we need healthy secretions to make the acid. The acid signals the sphincter to tighten up. So keep that in mind. Do you recommend the Cyrex 14 for food allergies? I mean, the Cyrex is okay. It's good. So is the MRT. Not a huge food allergy person unless there's some severe sensitivities. I just find that it ends up being you're chasing your tail because you eat these foods. Most of them, the ones we cut out on an autoimmune template, tend to significantly help. And then we do a reintroduction that's very methodical. But if you wanted to do it to experiment, fine. But I think just start an autoimmune template first. Let's see here. Let me head over to Facebook real quick. I've been ignoring y'all. Sorry, guys. Facebook doesn't have the best system to read your messages. That's why I don't get to them. All right, I got Nicole here. Hold on, Nicole. Bear with me. If you're going to drink alcohol one night, what can you take with it to help the damage? Yeah, activated charcoal. It says see more. Let me see if that will. Rats. Sorry, Nicole, I can't see the rest of what you're saying. But I think I know where you're getting at. We're going to do activated charcoal. We're going to do some vitamin C, maybe some sulfur aminos or NAC. That's a great way to do it. Drink the charcoal or take the charcoal when you're doing your drinks. That way it binds to it. And of course, you could always add in some liver tonifying herbs like silymarin/milk thistle. Irma writes in, partial empty cell seen on MRI was not given anything for it. Said there was CSF present. They acted as if it was a non-issue. Interesting. I mean, do you have a pituitary? That would be the question I'd want to know. Genesis, does sparkling water affect stomach acid at all? Well, I mean, if you look at the pH of it, it may be a tiny bit alkalizing. So, of course, water, I think, can affect the pH in general, because if water is a pH of 7, let's assume it's 7, right? And your stomach acid's at 2, well, 7 and 2 will raise that thing up to 4 or 5 very fast. So I highly recommend not hydrating when you're eating. Robert, again, is there such thing as having GERD without any symptoms, without having any burning of the throat? It depends. I mean, what makes you think there is GERD? I mean, there'd be some type of like reflux or a kind of a puke burp, reflexive burp, irritation, inflammation. Usually you're going to feel it up in this area here. This is where the stomach is, right? Stomach's kind of be hiding right in this area. So you'll typically feel it here. You'll feel the heartburn kind of come up. So that's the best sign of GERD in general. Excellent. Let's see here. Any other questions, guys? Let me know. If not, I'm going to go check out and have a nice Friday night. Give you guys just a few seconds here to chime in. All right. I think we're good, y'all. Well, you guys have a phenomenal weekend. I'm going to enjoy mine, and I will be back on, I think, Monday. I think I'll be here on Labor Day. Look forward to talking to y'all. Bye now.